Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this. Oh, I do beg your pardon. We're just waiting at Councillor and Skip to grab his nameplate. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to this Licensing Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 13th of December. This meeting is being live streamed. Should the live stream go down, we will pause the meeting until the live stream has been resumed. Do we have any apologies and substitutions?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillors Ambrose Smith, Councillor Trapp and Councillor Alison Whelan. And we have Councillors Akinwale and Councillor Hunt here as substitutes.
Very much. Do we have any, excuse me, you have to forgive me for clearing my throat and coughing. Any declarations of interests from anybody? Perfect. Thank you very much. The minutes. Are you happy for me to confirm the record of the minutes of the, this is the Statutory Subcommittee held on the 1st of June, which I did not attend. And the Licensing Committee, the chair of the subcommittee will sign those minutes, and I will sign the minutes of the Licensing Committee held on the 8th of November. Are we happy that those minutes are a true record? Perfect. Thank you very much. I have no chairman's announcements other than to wish you all happy Christmas and a very merry new year. And I believe there may be some sausage rolls and mince pies on offer after the meeting has finished for those that want them. If we now move on to agenda item number 5, which is the taxi licensing policy update. I'll hand you over to Stuart for his briefing.
Thank you, Chair. As you say, we're here today to consider the results of the taxi licensing policy consultation exercise that ran from Monday, the 11th of September 2023 to Friday, the 3rd of November 2023. So by way of background, on the 4th of September, members were presented with a report outlining draft proposals to update the Council's taxi licensing policy, and members resolved to allow officers to take these draft proposals to consultation with key stakeholders and general public. As I say, this took place between the 11th of September and the 3rd of November this year, and included the consultee shown in paragraph 3.2, which was all existing licence holders, those registered on the Council's consultee mailing list regarding transport, parish, town, city councils, ward councillors, CAMS, County Council, National Private Hire Association, Cambridgeshire Constabulary, local and national disability and access groups, and members of the general public via the Council's website and a notice in reception. Consultation responses were welcomed in writing via email and via a consultation response form, which was placed on the Council's website. And unfortunately, despite the wide consultation, no responses were received. So the proposals that were consulted upon, just to recap, I won't go through in like full word for word, but proposal 1 was to increase the base model price of executive vehicles at the point of manufacture from the current £35,000 figure to £50,000. And that was tabled to ensure that the private hire executive side of the market remains exactly that, exclusive rather than mainstream. Proposal 2 was a requirement for all new petrol and diesel vehicles, including petrol and diesel powered hybrids and LPG conversions, to be Euro 6 compliant. So again, that was tabled to help with the Council's green agenda as such, to lower emissions. And obviously was taken into account, as was discussed at the previous meeting, you know, the issues surrounding sort of electric charge points and things like that, which are not yet sort of really readily available in the district. So it was seen as a good step in the right direction to table this as a proposal. It obviously, as well as lowering emissions, has the effect of newer cars do tend to be safer as well, from a public safety point of view. This would mean that, say, generally vehicles would be 2015 onwards in the fleet. So around sort of like, if people purchasing now, it'd be about obviously eight years. But obviously, as the years go by, that could be a 10 or a 12-year-old vehicle, etc. So most of our fleet, as Table 1 shows in this report and was detailed previously, most fall within Category 5 and 6 already. There are a handful which are in categories Euro 3 and Euro 4. You'll see in that table there's 13 vehicles currently in the lower categories, which are obviously much older vehicles. Okay, Proposal 3 was to introduce a 2-year deadline for all existing Euro 3 vehicles and a 5-year deadline for all existing Euro 4 and 5 vehicles to become compliant. So that would mean that anyone who currently has a vehicle in our fleet that this new Euro 6 policy would affect, they would be able to continue to license for 2 years if it was one of the older vehicles, and 5 years if it was a Euro 4 or Euro 5. So it gives the trade time to transition to the new requirements. But as I say, any new licensed vehicle coming into the fleet, so that's not vehicles that are going to come in because of an accident, so they're going to go on to like an existing plate. These are people who come to us and say, I wish to have a brand new license, and we issue a brand new license number to them. They would have to comply with the Euro 6 straight away. Okay. So as I say, that is the sort of gives the trade that flexibility to enable a sort of a grandfathering rights and a time to adapt and obviously replace those vehicles. Proposal 4 that was tabled was an amendment to the rules regarding landline phones at operator bases. So at present, all private hire operator bases where bookings are accepted must have a landline phone installed at the base location. But in modern times, whilst the law states that bookings must be made through a licensed operator base, the reality is that most of these bookings are made via broadband internet connections and VoIP telephones. Essentially, they're handsets and phones like we use at the council that don't have like a traditional landline, but they are a phone nonetheless. And they also use things like PDA equipments and apps and that sort of thing that are tied to the property, but essentially are out there, you know, in an electronic online capacity from people's mobile phones. So the proposed amendment would provide greater flexibility to operators whilst ensuring that booking records can still be accessed and are being made lawfully, and any customer who has a number to contact in order to speak to the operator should there be an issue. So that was Proposal 4. And Proposal 5 was just an open invite to any consultee to comment on any part of the current policy that was in force. We felt that was sort of the right thing to do at that point, to be seen to be open and transparent in the way we go about our business. So that was Proposal 5. So the conclusion is really the adoption of the amendments contained in paragraphs 4.1 to 4.4 will support the council's corporate objective of achieving a cleaner, greener Cambridgeshire by taking a step towards lowering harmful emissions levels whilst remaining supportive of the trade. They will also have the additional benefit of better safety standards and more passenger driver comfort than the older vehicles. And Appendix 1, which is attached to my report, is the draft policy in its entirety based on all the proposals being adopted. So financial implications. If the proposals in the report are adopted, the only financial impact will be on those who apply for a new vehicle or those who apply to renew an existing non-compliant vehicle. It doesn't have an impact on drivers, obviously, at all. The requirement to obtain a Euro 6 vehicle will restrict the purchasing of vehicles, let's say, to no more than approximately 8 years of age at this point in time, which may have an impact on the purchase cost of a suitable vehicle compared to the current purchasing of like 10 or 12-year-old vehicles at this point in time. However, you know, we suggest that the additional costs will be minimal and they will be potentially recovered by having the vehicle in the fleet for a longer period of time. So that offsets partially, and as we move forward, obviously that impact will become less because older cars will be able to be sourced. And as I say, there is this grandfathering which enables those already in the fleet to be sort of protected from these amendments for 2 or 5 years, depending on the age of the vehicle. So, as I say, that's just a quick recap of what was discussed back in September. As I say, there were no consultee responses. there's one way of looking at that is saying, well, you know, maybe we didn't go out to enough people, you know, and promote it well enough. But I believe that's not the case. And the other way of looking at it is that the trade has, and all of the different consultees have had a chance, and they don't see anything of any cause for concern. And I'm available to take any questions that members may have.
Thank you, Stuart. Does anybody have any questions for Stuart? I have just one, and I wondered how this will affect specialist cars that do weddings and things like that, who use the much older vehicles, classic Rolls Royces, that kind of thing. How will that affect them within the Euro 6 compliance?
Thank you, Chair. We have conditions that are specifically set up for dealing with novelty vehicles. And these novelty vehicles and limousines, they are your converted fire engines and say prom type limousines, etc. It would be the intention that they would be exempt from the requirements of this policy because of the very nature of these vehicles. They tend to be older vehicles, but they are not in mainstream use. Right. They're very much sort of in a niche area of the market, and we deal with them separately. We don't have any in the fleet at the moment, but that's not to say that we couldn't have somebody come forward with them. So yeah, we can reflect that and make that clearer in the policy.
I think that would be very useful, because you never know, somebody might want to start up a prom. Proms seem to be getting much bigger these days, so it may be something they want to go on in future. Councillor Horgan.
In a similar vein, I trust that hearses are a special licence condition outside of these rules, or it doesn't apply. Could you explain?
Certainly can, Councillor. Weddings and funeral vehicles are still exempt from the whole licensing regime, so they don't require licensing at all.
Very much. No further questions for Stuart, in which case then we'll move on to the debate. Does anybody have anything they want to contribute at all? We all happy that we go forward to the vote? Would you like me to Councillor Hunt.
I'd just like to say, I every time I read this and had a question, it seems the officer had already answered it. And so I'd just like to say it seems to me it have been an excellent job, and you've taken into account all the little permutations and things like the TikTok or whatever it is in Soham, and the wedding vehicles and everything, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Wilson.
I'd like to support what Bill said. Actually, an excellent report, and thank the officers for doing a good job.
As they always do in licensing, they're excellent officers. Are we happy for me to take this just as one block vote? We're looking at adopting 4.1, 4.2, 4.3 and 4.4. Can I have a show of hands then that we accept this? Do I need a seconder or a proposer? I don't think we do we? No, I've gone mad. It's all right. Okay. It's the cold. I'm blaming the cold. All those in favour of adopting those 4 policies? Perfect. Thank you very much indeed. The fifth one, I beg your pardon,
sorry,
and number 5,
just
sorry, and 4 point, yes, and 4.5. Right, death would be a release. Okay, now we move on to the senior officers' report. If you have anything for us, Stuart.
It's really very brief, just to make members aware that the Department for Transport finally released their best practice guidance revision. I think the last one was 2010, and the new one had been promised from about 2016, I think. And they finally published it on I think it was the 24th of November. So we're just going through that at the moment to see what impact that will have, ironically, actually on the policy that we just approved today, because it may need to be sort of tweaked slightly, but obviously it was very bad timing from our point of view because our consultation was already out and we had to see that process through. And as I say, it's, as they say, there's a certain law, isn't there, when that sort of thing happens, and that's what happened for us this time. So as I say, officers will go through that, cross-reference it to what we have already in our policy, which has just been adopted today, and then I will bring that to a report in the new year for members to consider and obviously get the full details of. And then also just on that, we had an audit earlier in 2023. And one of the things it picked up on was the fact that our license enforcement policy, all of our policies have an element of enforcement sort of in them, specifically sort of dealing with taxes or alcohol and entertainment. But we also have a license enforcement policy that sort of sits as an umbrella above all of our licensing activity and sits below the council's overall enforcement policy. Now, unfortunately, what was picked up on that was it was quite out of date.
Okay.
And so I'm currently at the moment reviewing that, and that will also come to members in the new year at one of the future meetings.
Won't be at the February meeting though, but possibly.
I'm hoping to have at least one of those at the February. It may be both of them, providing January is kind to us. As far as general work within the offices, it's the usual sort of end of year running into Christmas. It's been incredibly busy, and we continue to sort of obviously just support the trade and do everything what we do. So yeah, there's nothing else of note unless members have any questions of me.
Does anybody have any questions for Stuart? Right, in which case then we move on to the forward agenda. The January meeting has been cancelled, but at the moment I see we're penciled in for the 14th of February. Valentine's cards will be gratefully received. And should that change, then we will alert the committee if we need to push that back to March, perhaps get the two in together. But we'll see how things pan out as far as the review of the enforcement and the Department for Trade review has come. In which case then, I think this has to be a record. I would now say bring the meeting to a close at 10:18. And I wish you again, happy Christmas and a very Merry New Year. Thank you very much.